knowing what some guys are doing. Like I said, just to practice what they're putting in their body just to sleep at night. Like, just so we can be there for each other. And I wish everybody in that room felt the same way about this place. And as a leader, that pisses me off, if I'm being honest.
You guys got to play for one another, play a full game, and, you know, that's 60 minutes from start to finish, coming out starting fast and then closing out games. Making plays when you know, taking on that burden, wanting to be the guy that, you know, or wanting to be on offense when it's time, or wanting the ball, or wanting to shut it down when you're on defense, just wanting to be the guy that make the play. And, you know, I just don't got enough guys that are fully bought into that right now. And I think people like the idea, but when it's time to actually execute, it don't turn out that way.
I can't speak to what he was referring to specifically, but in my opinion, you know, when you see us out there fighting and grinding and playing hard, and we're right there at the end of the game, like, I don't have any issue with the effort or competition that I saw on the field yesterday at all.
Dysfunction Junction, what's your function? Dysfunction reigns for the Las Vegas Raiders. And you know Derek Carr has a point to make when he shows up for a press conference with sleeves. You know. You know. He wants you to pay attention to his words, not his guns. So, look, what do you expect? Woefully underperforming. It's a mess. The fans are up in arms about Josh McDaniels. Derek Carr, I don't know if he was being passive-aggressive. I don't know what point he was trying to make on Sunday, as he was like on the verge of tears, real or otherwise, throughout that entire press conference. And he did raise the point that maybe others in the locker room don't feel the same way about this as he does. Davante Adams backs it up. And then Josh McDaniels says, I have no problem with effort. I don't know what's wrong with the Raiders, Chris. What do you perceive a lack of effort when you see them play?
No, I don't. Now, listen, I think what you're seeing here is it's a lot of drastic changes with an organization. One, I mean, yeah, there's guys here that I'm sure on their football team, they know they don't have a future. Wait, I was a Gruden guy. I'm made for the Gus Bradley Seattle defense. They're not going to really have me here after the year. Damn, they just cut Jonathan Abram last week, right? You know, the guy that was a first-round pick from the prior regime. So there's a changing of culture there and a changing of the attitude altogether. Gruden, he lays out the red carpet for star players and he kisses their ass and, oh, I love you, love you, love you. And then he craps on the negative player, the players that aren't as good. And, there's that there. The New England way, that doesn't go down with anybody. It's a different, no, we don't care who you are. You got to do your damn job every play, this play, be detailed, work hard. So there's something going on there. There's a changing of the culture. And where that's where that comes from. And again, they're not playing good right now. They've blown some fourth quarter leads. Do I think they're better than their record? Yes. All right. But here's the other thing, Mike, too, that I think is confusing this situation or not confusing it, but adding more pressure. The fact that they did go 10-7 last year and they went to the playoffs. Everybody just looks at it and goes, well, they should go to the playoffs again. And we know that's not the case, but it is Josh McDaniels, and for whatever reason, he's a guy that people like to jump on a little bit. And what I want to say, too, is...
Whoa,
right?
Time out. What increased the perception that they're going to be better this year more than anything else that happened? What's the one thing that would pump up the idea that this team is ready to build on what it did last year?
Yeah, sure. Davante Adams, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't go make that trade if you're not ready to keep chasing the brass ring right now.
Well, it
sends a message. That's exactly what you're doing.
But
it's an older receiver.
Yeah, I get it. But
basically a 2-year
did
deal.
you really think the New England way was going to be infused into an organization in 3 months, 4 months? That's insane.
Well, here's the problem.
Right.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. And, look, we saw a very affable and congenial Josh McDaniels at the scouting combine.
Mm-hmm.
These guys leave the Belichick nest thinking, I'm going to do it my own way. What they don't realize is their own way is so inextricably intertwined with the Patriot way, they don't even realize how much the Patriot way has shaped their way. And they think they're being a rebel. They're still Belichick. They're little mini Belichicks. Matt Patricia goes to Detroit. I'm going to do things my own way. I'm going to be different than Belichick. And he still goes in there with that basic Belichick template of trying to change the culture and try to do the things that Belichick did, and it pisses off Darius Slay, and it pisses off everybody else who's had it relatively easy as it relates to what the demands are, what the expectations are. So that's the problem. It takes time to get the Patriot. Even if you think you're not bringing the Patriot way, whatever way you're bringing, it takes time to change the culture. That's the problem. And when you go out and make the big swing for Davante Adams, you create the impression, we got this.
I don't disagree with that.
We wouldn't go get Davante Adams if we didn't think we could get this thing moving right away, because that is a move that tells everybody we're going all in. That's an F them picks move. That's not a we're trying to build something here move. So they should have never done that. It created an unrealistic and inaccurate expectation of what the Raiders were going to be this year.
Well, yeah, I still think this move is more than just about this year. It's about the future and having like an Edelman, Gronk, Brady type of, trio on your offense.
Draft that guy.
Right.
Draft him. Don't give up multiple first-round picks.
Again, it's the New England way too. They we see a proven commodity, and that's what we do. Now
we don't know how to draft and develop receivers in New England.
Well, maybe not.
We don't.
They just went with a proven commodity there. But my point is, either way, I know it's not been great, but like when you go Josh McDaniels and then you go Dave Ziegler as GM, who came from New England, and you go Patrick Graham, who was the Giants D coordinator last year, but was also in New England before that. That you have to let that process play out. When you're going the New England Patriot way, you got to go, wait, we're in this for the long play. And I think that's what Mark Davis sees here. We're in it for the long play. We're in it that the culture they build, the people they bring in, first-round picks are not as, maybe is important to a team like this because they find a lot of great second and third and fourth rounders, and let their process of their scouting department and all that find all the gems and hidden gems, in free agency. That's the New England way. That's the beauty of what they do. That's not going to be done overnight. Now, your Davante Adams point and how that was done, you're right. Maybe change that perception. Added to the fact that they were 10-7 last year. And what I want to say to people too is 10-7 last year, like the most, if you really break down them from last year, it's a very unimpressive 10-7. I mean, that's where I want people to realize too. First off, Rich Bisaccia did a great job. But, man, they beat the Steelers in that crappy offense early in the year when Big Ben and them were throwing the ball, 1 foot per play. They beat the Dolphins and Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. They
overcame the most dysfunctional, dropped out of the sky on John Gruden's head situation that I've ever seen. And they got to the playoffs.
That's all admirable. I get that. But that still doesn't make up for the fact that you got to play the Broncos twice and Nick Mullins' Browns down the stretch. And they got to play the Eagles.
Nick Mullins catching strays.
Well, hey, Carson Wentz I don't want to take the COVID booster, so now I miss a week of practice and I play like shit in a game against the Raiders that was to get in the playoffs. So, again, if you look at it, not only did they have some bad stuff happen to them, they also had a shamrock up their ass a little bit in a lot of ways, too, with how the schedule played out for them last year, too. Yeah. They weren't as a great 10-7 team is what I'm saying. I mean, they got killed by the Chiefs. They got killed by the Bengals. They got beat by the Giants last year. They got beat by the Bears. I mean, we're talking about teams that stunk last year, and they got beat by them. Like, not just beat, but, handled, by the New York Giants and teams like that. So, again, there's respect for what they did, but I also think that I'm just trying to say is to maybe the expectations and adding to this conversation there in Las Vegas right now.
If they had a shamrock up their butt last year, they've since had a shamrockectomy. I think that would Mark Davis.
It's a big surgery.
Yesterday. and look, Mark Davis needs to understand the connection between perception and reality. Then again, I'm not sure he does. Because he keeps going into Josh McDaniels' office after these losses, and reporters see it, and they write about it. And it creates the impression that you're not getting called to the principal's office. The principal's coming to your office. It's always bad when the boss comes to see you. You're not even bothering to have you go see the boss. Boss is coming to see you before there's even a chance to call you to the boss's office. And so there's just been this vague, weird, is Davis going to do something unpredictable? Is he going to do something erratic? We're just only 8 days removed from Jim Irsay and his big move. So what Mark Davis said yesterday, and there's the quote on the screen, people want instant gratification. This guy's coached 9 games. We're 2-7, and the results we're looking for, not the results we're looking for, but at the same time, we've lost 6 one-score games with the ball and a chance to win at the end. I gave him my vote of confidence when I signed him to a contract to coach the Raiders. That's when I gave it to him. Rome was not built in a day. In other words, I'm not going to pay this buyout. I'm not paying this buyout. That's what I've been saying the past few days. And somebody smarter than me, or somebody who thinks they're smarter than me, pointed it out. It may be debatable. He's never going to pay the buyout. He may want to fire him right now, deep down, but he's never going to pay the buyout. And I wouldn't rule out, now they've Lane Kiffin overhead projector, fire him for cause if you can. Maybe that's what happens a year from now. I don't know. But he doesn't want to pay the buyout. He's made the commitment financially. He's not going to turn it around now because it's going to cost him too much, and he's not one of these guys with money to burn. It was funny. He had kind of a nonchalant, flippant comment when the Walmart moguls took over the Broncos. Oh, it's no different. We're successful against them. The difference is they don't bat an eye about buying out their coach if they want to change coaches.
Right.
They got the money to do it like that.
Yep.
He doesn't, in comparison. No one does in comparison, so except for Bezos. So I think that, Chris, he's got no choice but to let this play out because he just had to write a big check to John Gruden, and he doesn't want to have to write a check to Josh McDaniels to not coach the team.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree that's probably part of the equation here, but I hope that he's smart enough to know that, wait, I've gone all in on this way, and we got to let it play out a little bit. You fire Josh McDaniels, and you might as well just get ready to fire Dave Ziegler, the GM, too, and you're going to have to cut that check, and then it's only a matter of time before you have to do that for Patrick Graham, and you're cutting a bunch of checks here if you're just doing that. And, again, give a chance to me, this is where I just let this process play out a little bit. Let the Raiders scouting and drafting and free agency, kind of come to fruition here and see what he can build that way. That's to me the beauty of why you made this move. I didn't think they were making this move to go, oh man, now they're in the Super Bowl conversation. And so I'm hoping Mark Davis, sees that aspect of it, especially after he came from a guy where it was horrible draft picks and all this crazy kind of crap that never really worked, and it didn't seem like the GM and the head coach were on the same side there. And after 4 years of not making it to the playoffs, they made it to the playoffs, right? But gosh, before John Gruden and all that happened last year, you were sitting there going, I don't get it. The guy gets a free pass. He gets a free pass. He doesn't go to the playoffs because he's friends with Mark Davis and all of that. And, he has all that issues happen. They go to the playoffs without him. But regardless, there were some things there that we all dissected that were like, man, it seems like him and Mayock don't agree on that draft pick. It seems like there was a fight. I hear that they're butting heads behind the scenes. I hear they're not on the same page. So, let this new process play out with some guys that, have been around the master in New England and see if they can't, infuse that into your organization.
Look, the reality is Gruden was running the show, but he didn't want the label of running the show, so he could blame Mike Mayock for his dumbass decisions when it came to drafting players. And now Mayock's the one that's stuck with the stink of Cleveland Farrell and Jonathan Abram and the other mistakes they've made from a personnel standpoint the past 4 years.
Right.
It's all on Mayock when Gruden's the one who was making those.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.